John, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try this one
Joanna's
more
here.
time.
Joanna's frozen, but that's fine. No, I liked it better the way before. I'm here with Sean, the most recently evicted house guest, and Corey, and Joanna's going through an 80s problem. And we are here to dish the dirt on Extra Whip now on Big Brother Cheesecake 8 Political Bait. Hello, I'm Andrew Shefsick Moonves. Welcome to Big Brother Cheesecake 8 Political Bait. It's day 46 inside the Big Brother Cheesecake house, and this week Dustin is the head of household, but it does not give Zachy and Gina safety because Alex decided to dissolve Parliament. At the time of this recording, we do not know who Dustin is nominated for eviction, but we are joined by the most recently evicted house guest, Sean, who is here with us. Michael and Rhonda could not be here. They're at the back room of a Williams Sonoma pouring hot candle wax on each other in a season 6-7 reunion orgy. But they send their love. Actually, they might show up late, but I have a feeling they won't. So, Sean, I'm going to get to, so sorry to see you evicted, but
Yeah.
should we start with the elephant in
Each
the room and get it
other.
out of the way first?
Sure. For
Yeah,
me, I think Joanne was trying to say something, so it like jittered in.
I have a feeling she was going to say the same thing, which is
Okay.
this week was definitely interesting in that you
Yeah.
chose to leave the game, which
Right.
did it at a very convenient time in terms of the schedule. So thank you for that.
That was on purpose.
Yes,
Yeah. There you
much
go.
like Rai Rai and Amy in seasons 5 and 6, it helped me not have to make massive changes.
Hmm.
Now, the fallout from the fans and the alumni are very, very polarizing. I've heard comments on one side of the scale saying, well, if a man can't nominate a woman because she's a woman, why is it okay for a woman to nominate a man because she's a man? And to the other side of Crimea, cis white male river. So I've heard
Right.
both sides of the scale. And meanwhile, Tom just puts boob pics in the alumni chat. Hi, Tom.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But I want to give you the chance to voice however you feel now with,
Yeah.
but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. That's all good. Yeah. So um, ironically, a few months ago I started going to therapy because I'd never been to therapy in my entire life, and I was like, you know what, now's the time to start. Last year was a very dramatic year for me. That's why I started playing this org and I signed up for this to be a distraction for me. And it's weird because it actually came full circle and really helped me pull out of everything. No pun intended for Andrew. It helped me pull out of my funk that I was going through this. So I'm good with it and I feel very at peace. And I knew people's general thought would be like, oh, Crimea River, white cisgender male. But I talked to my therapist because that was my thought too. Was like, okay, what right do I have to be so offended by this? Gina has now come to me and she's like, hey, I'm nominating you because you're a man. I understand. There's been five, well, Erica quit, but like there's been multiple women that were evicted. Now, Gina played a big hand in every woman that's gone home, with the exception of Anne Claire. But still, I understand where Gina's coming from to that degree. So I was really trying to piece together like why I felt so bad about this. And it started, we're filming on a Wednesday. And so a week ago today, I was with a friend hanging out and we started talking about trans rights. And I will be honest, I have never understood in depth about trans rights. I don't know anyone personally that's trans, even though I'm gay. And it's really not a part of like the LGBTQ plus group that I've thought of when I'm thinking of, because I'm thinking sexuality versus gender. It's a difference. It's a this. but it's still this like marginalized community to a degree where it's like we're all together in that. And when Gina came to me, I couldn't figure out why I felt so negatively towards her saying, I'm nominating because you're male and I don't want to nominate a female. And I took it badly, and now I went to therapy. I talked to my therapist and was like, "Hey, this is what's going on in my life right now. I don't know why I'm this upset about it, but there's something in me that's like, hey, I feel uncomfortable and I need to get out of this situation." And so she was like, "Hey, is there anything in your life that would lead you to this?" And I said, "I kind of think there is. When I was 16, I was in high school and I played sports. And essentially, there was somebody who backed me into a corner and essentially made me out myself as being gay in order to get, and that was what I had to do to stay in the sport that I liked, because an incident had come up and it was like, well, unless you're gay, that's the only thing that would make sense here. So you're either gay or you can't be here anymore. And I essentially had to out myself. And it was and afterwards, I was so angry that I was like, why did this person who is like a vigilante of their feelings and their rights have to make me in a situation where I felt that I had to out myself as being gay? Because I'm not, because I am gay, but like, why should I have to do it for their sake? And it was a coupling of that versus this trans rights conversation that I had a week ago. And none of this is like a negative towards Gina. She doesn't know any of this backstory, but I, it was a coupling of that where I thought of a very specific person that's in the community that is trans. And I'm like, what would they do? Like, if I was trans, like, if I was somebody right now that I really felt like I was a woman on the inside, and Gina's coming to me and saying, like, I'm nominating you because I believe, she's never asked me, I believe that you're a man. And the only defense that I would have if I wasn't is to out myself. And I'm so uncomfortable with this feeling, with this, like, why should I out myself in a hobby for your sake so that you feel good about not nominating other women? And it made me so emotional and upset. And I'm not one of those people at all, that I just felt so hard already towards this person who was trans, that I was being explained to what their life was like, that it made me like, okay, I'm a gay man, and there's people 40, 50 years ago who paved a way for me to get to live a good life that I wouldn't get to live. I would not have the strength to do it. I can promise you. If it was 40, 50 years ago, I would have married a woman and pretended my whole life, because I know me, and that's who I am. And there's so many people stronger than me that have opened doors for me. And it's nothing at all against Gina as a person or any of that stuff. She couldn't have known that that's that. I didn't know that was my feeling. But now that I've talked to my therapist and worked through that, that's where the empathy, I guess, came from. Was, if you're kind of putting me on the spot to reveal something I might not be comfortable revealing about myself to you. And that's really where it came from. And I just was too uncomfortable to keep going.
Wow, that was a lot. Thank you for sharing that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to like over expand, but
no, it's okay.
Yeah.
No, everyone was curious because I think we only got a little bit of the story, right? We're just going off of what Andrew kind of had in the video. So this that's what Extra Whip's for, you know. Tell us what's on your mind.
And that's it was my sexuality thing. And but I got married late last year. My family did not attend my wedding. They just said, because they couldn't understand. And that was where the trans conversation came from for me. Was I was like, I don't get it. I just don't get it. And my friend was like, you don't have to get it. It's not your business to get it. And I was like, you're right, because that's what I told my family when they turned down my wedding invitation. Was, it's not up for you to leave. Joanne left. She's like, I'm done. I've had enough.
I think it's technical issues. Yeah,
I'm kidding.
No, I'm kidding. No, it was a joke. But yeah, no, my family is like, we're not attending your wedding. This is not within our values. It's not within our stuff. And I'm like, you don't have to care. You don't have to understand. You just have to support. You have to be there. And it made me, and now I can look back. I knew there was something in my gut then, and I didn't get time to process. And Andrew, like immediately when Gina told me, I immediately went to Andrew and I was like, she said this, and I'm walking. Like I'm walking from the game. There's something in my gut that's so unsettled by this, and I don't know what it is. And I'm my therapist tells me I'm emotionally immature, and I agree with her that I can't process emotions quickly, but I need time. And when I got the time to reflect back, I'm like, hey, you know what? I knew something was wrong. Even though I knew I didn't dislike Gina or anything, I knew something was wrong for my gut and my person. And that was what it was. I had this trans conversation, and I'm like, you know what? I'm a man. And even that, I'm a man, and I got to say, I'm a man, and I'm leaving the game. But somebody who was secretly, if I was somebody else who was like, I feel like I'm a woman inside, I would have had to have left with the worst feeling in my body to be like, I had to just quit a game and out myself over the fact that of who I am inside. And I wasn't ready to come out to Gina, who's like, unless you, she didn't say, unless you come out as female, you're going on the block. But that is the sentiment that I had was like, unless it was 16-year-old me again. So now I can look back and be like, you know what? Back then I had to come out as gay to protect myself. And this time I didn't. But I still should support the people that do have to be in that spot. And that's that. Like, that's just kind of it.
Okay, so did some people were speculating,
Mm.
did Gina say to you simply that you're going on the block because you're male and nothing else?
She said that I was going on the block because Glow is female. So that was the technical term. So, and essentially, yes, I'm sorry. My light thing is like,
That's okay.
I have to switch to
drooping.
my phone.
It was
Sorry,
drooping. You're good.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, so she didn't say you're going on the block because you're a male. It was I'm not putting up Gina because I'm not putting up Glow because she is female. And I can't afford for more females to go. Which I mean, you know what? Like, if that's part of her, oh my god, I'm just gonna hold it. Sorry. If that's part of her game, so be it. Like, that's totally fine. If it's hey, Penny and Glow as individual human beings, because I'm not saying she didn't ask what people's genders were, but she definitely didn't ask me what I identify as or anything like that. Not that she necessarily has to, but that never came up. My gender didn't come up until the very last minute where it was like, hey, by the way, this is where I'm at. I was just so shocked, was really the thing.
Did she try to assure you that you were safe? Because I heard that from someone that Gina tried to tell
Yeah.
you you were safe. Okay.
Oh, yeah. She told me who the vote she already had was. She told me I was completely safe. And it was the direct response to me telling her, and I do need to give I was explaining this to people that I knew. When Gina told me that it was because she couldn't nominate a female, and so she would have to nominate a male, I made the comment to Gina, I hate that my penis had a decision in this because I'm not comfortable with that. I relayed the information, and Rayanne, who's from Endure and she's also played here, she did let me know, hey, that's really offensive to me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I did not realize the impact that I was having in saying that comment. So sorry to Rayanne, person to person wise, but I shouldn't have said it in those terms. And I just was ignorant and I didn't know. But it was a thing where I did address it with her, and her response to that was, Sean, calm down. You're safe. I've got these votes. And every time I would readdress it, it was just like, you're safe. I don't know really what the problem is. And I'm like, but I'm having an existential crisis about this, and I don't know what the problem is, but it's something. And I kept reassuring her, I'm like, Gina, I'm not mad at you. I don't think you're a bad person. There's just something in my gut that's telling me this isn't right, and I've got to do something about this. And I did tell her I was going to leave the game after she had done it. I was like, I feel so weirdly strongly about this because I'm not an emotional person really, that I have to do something to alleviate this feeling in me. And that was it.
Hmm. Wow. This is definitely a deep conversation we're having.
Sorry, yeah.
No, it's okay. No, it's
I
good.
didn't mean to not take the fun out or anything.
Now, uh, did the week before, I don't want to pivot too far away, but the week before, when the whole coup d'etat chat between Brooke and Curtis broke down,
Yeah.
and it ended up getting to Glow, who then went on to go in the group chat and sink Brooke's game. What were you telling the truth that it was Gina that was the one who told Glow?
I'm 99% sure it was Gina. I told Gina at I think I have the timestamp. It was at 4:55-ish on a day that said she asked me directly because I was telling her about the coup situation. And the coup situation was genuinely Curtis was very upset that Davey was going to be evicted. He was upset from the very beginning of the week. Dustin was talking about, hey, I'm going to put Davey up. And these are my reasons why. And all of Dustin's reasons were completely game related. It was nothing personal. I felt the exact same sentiment. I was like, yes, Davey absolutely should be our target. And of course, because Brooke would be a help to me. Davey should be our target. Here we go. And Curtis was very suddenly upset about it. And it was weird because even when we made our alliance, like the group alliance that came to that decision, I asked Curtis about, hey, do you want Davey in it? Because Davey was a liberal. And I'm like, do you want more support? I was in the conservative party. I didn't have a lot. I mean, we weren't like the you know A squad or anything as a whole. So I'm like, dude, are you wanting Davey in this group? And he was like, absolutely not. I don't want Davey in the group. And so we left Davey out specifically for that reason. So when Dustin put Davey up as the replacement nominee, we were shocked that Curtis went so hard to save Davey because we're like, well, you've been saying the whole time, like you would be fine with him leaving. You don't need him here. And so when everything came about, Curtis was suddenly so adamant that I thought it was going to break up our alliance. And so I was like, well, I want Curtis to be happy. And I knew Dustin was very afraid of the coup d'etat, as was I. And so I'm like, well, maybe we can have like a melding of the minds here where we can eliminate the coup d'etat, Davey stays safe, Brooks stays safe, and we just eliminate some alternate person. So I really was trying to help the general situation, but it just didn't work out that way.
So that the origin was you to get the coup d'etat
Oh,
potential.
100%. Yeah, the origin was me. Oh yeah, so that's what I was saying. So the whole conversation happened, and eventually it came up between only Brooke and Curtis that the nominees would be Zach and Glow, which we saw in the last extra whip that Brooke confirmed she would have put up Zach and Glow. Gina came to me when I was explaining what was going on to her, and she said, "Who did Brooke say she was going to put up?" And I said, "Brooke said she was going to put up Zach and Glow," which we know that is the truth. And I then, not but 15 minutes later, Glow called it out in public. So I went to Gina privately and said, Gina, you just told that, like, clearly you're the one that told Glow because I didn't tell Glow and I didn't tell anybody but you right now, 15 minutes ago, that this happened. And she just sent like a skull face emoji, like the RIP death emoji. So she just sent that back. So I knew, okay, you're acknowledging that you're the one that told. My alliance started asking who told, and I stepped up and I was like, I told. Because I was like, I don't want Gina. Gina had just talked to me about like she didn't like confrontation and she didn't like, fighting and stuff. So I was like, you know what? I don't want anyone to confront her about it. So I'm just gonna say I told Glow. It's easier that way. Who cares? So I put myself in that situation.
Interesting. But then when everything happened and the votes came about, it was 6-2 against Brooke, and you were one of the 6. So you did change what you originally just said 2 minutes ago you wanted to do. So what made you change your mind?
It was just Brooke was the whole game I knew Brooke was always lying to me, but I was like, I don't really
Brooke
care
lying?
because
She doesn't do that.
No. I just knew everything was a lie, but it was so transparent that I didn't care. Because I'm like, okay, like you lie about the dumbest things. Like, so like you lie and say things that aren't even within the rules of the game. So when I know they're not in the rules of the game, so here we go. And that ultimately was it. And then after a while, I'm like, listen, she's now calling out Curtis, who was one of our alliance members. Now she's side messaging me negative things. So I was like, you know what? Fine, whatever. Brooke can just leave. Curtis is trying to keep her. And the rest of the alliance was not, I don't want to say wishy washy, that's a little too far, but they weren't concrete in who they would get rid of. It wasn't like they were like, no, we're voting Davy and that's who we're voting. Then I've been like, okay, we'll vote Davy. But they were very up in the air, quote unquote. So I was like, okay, you know what? Curtis has a strong standpoint. So, like, I guess I'm fine with Brooke leaving, even though Brooke being here benefits my game more than Davy. I'll do it for the group, kind of thing.
So
That's how I felt.
I have a question. This
Yeah.
came up in Brooke's whip because we got onto the topic of her playing other seasons and she just didn't come out and say it. So what I'm trying to find out is we kind of got an idea that people were finding out before she told them, and that kind of instantly made distrust with people. Were you one of them that found out, or did she tell you, or?
She didn't tell me. I mean, I've been in the Endure server for many years, so I knew immediately
you
coming
should know.
in the game.
Yeah.
Oh, I knew.
Yeah.
I knew. I didn't know that people didn't know. Like, I didn't feel
Yeah,
she
no,
hid it
and
from anybody.
all last season, no one looked to even check the season before banner to see that Brooke was there.
Yeah,
and she wasn't telling any, like, there was people that didn't find out except for her like little core alliance.
Yeah, like I knew immediately, but I didn't care because I've played, I mean, at this point I'm 31, but I started playing orgs at 13. I've intermingled with the same people hundreds of times, so it just didn't bother me when I heard it. And
is
I never heard
it a little different though that when you're playing the same game, like this was her third time where it's like, yeah, you might want to come out and say it because if people found out you played this game, you understand the rules of this game quite well. That it's like, well, if you're not telling anyone, then
I did make the comment a few times, so you are right in that. I did make the comment a few times to people that I was like getting. It wasn't this week though. I think it was the previous week when Brooke and Kendra were nominated, where I was like, "Hey, I know for sure," but it's pre-veto, obviously. I was like, "Hey, I know for sure that Brooke has played multiple times, so she knows what competitions are coming up." I was kind of warned about what competitions might be coming up just through connections, but I'm like, Brooke knows exactly what she's looking for. But my biggest thing was I knew Brooke would know what she's looking for in searching for like idle clues. Because I'm like, if she's played multiple seasons, Andrew might recirculate where you find stuff.
To be fair, anyone who signed up for the Big Brother Cheesecake has access on YouTube to all the videos. So anybody could have been fully aware of that. Just not defending her, but just, do your homework before you start.
Yeah. Oh, that was, and 100% I agree with that. Anybody could do that. But that was my thing was like, hey, offhand, Brooke knows what she's looking for. But it was never like, oh, it was always more of like if Brooke was for me, Davy was the correct person to go over Brooke. Like I didn't see a reason
in that situation, especially with her having the poo, you knew she was gonna have to go up eventually.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm not one to talk. I helped evict Kately when she had it. So I mean I was kind of in the same situation, but it's like that's what people wanted. So it's like, all right.
Oh yeah. No, it was just that last minute shakeup really did a lot to hurt Brooke's game. I think at least. So
do you think if you hadn't left that you would have actually stayed this week, or do you think you would have been the one evicted anyway?
People messaged me and said that they were keeping me. I mean, I actually don't know what the rule is, but a lot of people messaged after I had posted and they said like, oh, I was keeping you, were completely safe. And it made me feel better in that way because I wanted to reassure myself that I wasn't being like a petty bitch and just like, I'm leaving. And because in that moment, I didn't know why I felt so strongly. And so I'm like, okay, I thought that I probably would stay, but I also was like, I have to just separate myself out of this environment, and I don't quite know why. I haven't gone through my feelings yet, but there's something in my gut saying why.
So, Sean,
Mhm.
it's correct that you don't want to go into the jury house, correct?
I wouldn't. There's nothing against it. I just don't. I don't want to create a negative atmosphere for people. And that was in that moment. That was my worry, was because I knew I was very upset and hurt, but I didn't know why that I was. At this point, I probably could, because I understand why, what my rationale was. But in that moment, I'm like, I don't want to create a negative environment from Andrew's game.
Okay, so with that being said, I'm using Andrew's line there. um, now that you've explained yourself and you've shared with us the anxiety, I guess, that you had
Yeah.
leading up
Mhm.
to that whole thing, and
Yeah.
you feel better about it now. When this show airs on Saturday, how do you feel about going into the jury then? Then you don't have to explain yourself to the
Oh yeah.
people that are in jury. They've already seen it.
Joanne
Because
just wants to see.
really, it's part of the experience.
Go
Oh
finish.
yeah.
What's that?
No, finish, Joanne. Sorry.
I just think that it's part of the experience. It's
Mhm.
yeah, it's part of the experience to be in jury house. Plus, hello, I'm the Queen of Ponderosa. I got a whole buffet happening here. I got to feed somebody.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So I've never like left a game or left a chat or any of that kind of stuff. I played at least 100, if not more, games in almost 20 years at this point, like 18 years of playing games. I never would do that to a game. It was genuinely, I don't want and I don't want the negativity of me and my energy on something that Andrew's working so hard on, because it's like, why? I don't want it to be like, oh my God, season 8, like the tone and just everything was just hateful the rest of the game. And so that's why I was like, oh, I don't want that. Now at
Andrew
this point,
probably would have loved it, to be honest.
I was going to say, I don't think there's such a thing as a negative tone. I mean, in season 5, we had a cunt calling session at the end when Kat called Chantel a cunt in the thing. So, and I'll never forget. Sorry, I just have to segue. I'll never forget when Joanne asked, "What move did you make to help you get to the end?" And JoJo said, "I helped convince you, Joanne, to put up Chanel because it was in my best interest and not in your best interest." Chantel cuts him off and says, "Oh, actually, I was involved in that too. I totally helped get Joanne to put up Chanel." And Joanne goes, "No, you didn't." Loved it.
Nope, not at all.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
Sean,
at this point, I would have no problem going into a chat. It was never like, oh, I don't want to talk to like Kendra or Brooke, which might be the underlying sentiment there. But like, I don't know. But it was never that. It was and I've never been in an org in 18 plus years where the host is making a video every night that's 30 plus minutes long, that's investing all this time and energy into it, and for me to waltz in and like create this atmosphere of drama because of my past and like trans people, like I'm like, I can't do that. Like, I'd rather separate myself out than ruin his thing.
You can do whatever you like.
Well, listen, Sean, everyone that we've heard from that has left the game, even in the alumni chats, and what Andrew showed us that he's allowed to show us prior to, to keep us updated on what's going on in the house. Everyone says you're a joy to be having around, and like you give some fun and cause a little bit of drama, which we love as viewers, of course, and wickers. But we need you to just go into the house. This is going to be okay because you've said your piece. You are working the process in your head, and I think come on, give us some scoop up in
Joanne
there.
just wants to see Kendra and Brooke pounce on Sean. That's exactly what you want to see. Because Kendra will be nice, but Brooke will definitely have her moment with you when you first.
And you know what? If she does, that's totally fine. I don't mind going toe to toe. I will say I watched the extra whip that Brooke had. I was absolute nonsense, and I just do not think that she is. I don't think she's a good player. Like, that's it. Like, I don't know. I didn't see her the first 2 seasons, and I get that y'all have said that she's grown, but like, there's always room for more growth. And like that's the best I can say. I don't know. Like I think she's a very nice person. I just don't, if gameplay wise, keeping it in game, I'm like, you're glass for me. I'm like, I can see right through this whole game. And you know, Andrew, I mean, I was always calling people out in my confessionals, and like from day one, I'm like, listen, Brooke, I clearly, like, this is insane. Like, I just don't believe this. So yeah, no.
Yeah, the second you said you were leaving, Brooke was like, "Oh, can I go back in? Can I go back in? Can I go back in?" I'm like, no, he didn't mess with the schedule, so no.
No, he didn't earn that. Like, yeah.
I was going to say, I do have a question. I'll make it quick. Hopefully we can answer this quick. So it kind of seemed like you were getting accused of bullying. It was kind of getting thrown out there. Do you think, and I mean, it's Big Brother. If this kind of stuff's going to happen, settle down, people. Do you think that, words like bullying, last season, there was some talk going around that gaslighting got thrown around way too easily as a word being used. Do you think some of this verbiage was just getting thrown around a little too much when it's like, come on, let's settle it down here? Maybe that's not exactly what was going on.
This is the place to be transparent. So like it's a hard push. I was, in my view, aligned with Gina from very early on in the game, and I do feel that Gina. So a good contrast was I was close with Dustin from the beginning of the game and Gina. Anytime I talked to Dustin, it was, hey, we should target Davey because XYZ, and they were very game strategic reasons.
Yeah,
and it went from person to person. Right. And it never moved into a personal territory. With Gina, it always moved into a personal territory and it's something I hinted to Andrew about, and I was like, I'm not going to organically bring it up on Extra, but I guess if it's being asked,
you don't have to. I was just curious if those words were getting thrown away.
Rhonda wants to know. Stop. Let Rhonda and Michael have their moment. They're asking this question. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, it is a thing where when, even as my ally, when I would talk to Gina, it did feel like the person that we were going to target or vote out, be it whoever, they had to be villainized in some way to make us the good guys and them the bad guys. I've played so many times where I don't play that way, but I'm like, I understand her rationale in it. And it's very much like, okay, and there has to be a line where like they did this, so this is why. So I almost was waiting for what was going to be my rationale, where I'm like, okay, I already know what you've said about Paige. I know what you've said about Kendra. I know what you've said about each one down the line to me personally. So I'm like, I know there's a personal towards me. What's it going to be? So when it came up, that's when I was like, okay, here it is. Like, of course, like it's got to be an outside the game something. And so, whereas with Dustin, it was always game. And it's very hard.
I think Andrew's got to cut us off here.
Yeah, sorry, I have to get to the end. But you were the first person of Team Rhonda to be evicted, so Rhonda's down to Jonathan, Penny, and Curtis. Joanne still has Alex, who dissolved Parliament, so he may have. I'm not sure if he made the right decision, but we'll find out. Corey still has Glow, who's a human being. And Michael has Dustin, Davey, Gina, and Zachy. Oh, she'll say something about it. Michael's currently in the lead.
Glow, it's okay. I love you.
Real quick, Sean. First of all, thank you for coming on and speaking very openly and candidly, and we appreciate that. And who do you think is going to win, and who do you want to see win?
I think Jonathan's going to win, and I want to see Glow win. I think it'll be so good. Like, if Glow makes finale, if Glow gets to the final, she's winning. And I'm telling you, I've talked to the other people about this. If Glow gets to the end, she's winning, period. I don't know if people think she's not, but she is.
But the problem is, if everybody knows that, they're not going to let her get to the end, and she's not the type to win her way to the end. So she's kind of stuck. That's right. That's a problem. But anyway, thank you so much, Sean. With that said, who will win the Golden Power Veto on the Big Brother Captions Creative Golden Power Veto competition? Find out tomorrow. Monday is the Golden Power veto ceremony. Tuesday, the final 2 nominees will plead their case, and Wednesday is the next live eviction and head of household competition, where another house guest will be evicted from the Big Brother Cheesecake 8 house, get impeached from Congress, lose their shot at the $800 cash prize, and become the first member of the jury. I'm Andrew Shefsik Moonves. Take care, and remember, politicians are people who, when they see light at the end of the tunnel, go out and buy some more tunnel. Good night.